Hi, I'm Cheryl Gottschall.
And I'm Barry Taylor.
Today we're going to talk to you about a ground trace case of a possible UFO landing site here in the suburbs of Brisbane from 1996.
Yeah, these unusual ground trace markings are very difficult to come by, aren't they?
Yes, we haven't had a lot of them over the years. I think I've only investigated three of those types of cases since 1988.
Those ground trace cases are very rare, and you very rarely hear of them, but when you do it, especially in your own backyard in Brisbane suburbs, it must have been quite exciting to go out and have a look at that.
It was actually. When I went out there, I spoke to the people involved, and they were quite fascinated by what they found on the ground. They didn't know really what it was, or weren't convinced it was a UFO landing site, but they were quite open to the whole possibility.
How long after it happened did they call you out to have a look at it?
I was there within a couple of days after the call.
And here's a photograph of what you actually saw there at the site. It must have been pretty amazing when you first crawled over the fence, I suppose, to have a look at this. Can you just explain what it was like when you just arrived at this location that had a possible UFO landing site?
Well, I spoke to the people involved first. 5-acre property, and the house was at the front of the property near the road. Down the back of the property was a grove of gum trees. And what had happened was that the people who had called us out to investigate what was going on told me that they had seen lights down the back of the property during the night, and when in the morning they got up and went out to investigate, and they found this large circle on the ground. The soil was darker than the soil outside of the circle, and the grass had been browned off, and the soil was dry as opposed to the soil outside of the circle. And they also found one of their chickens had been killed, but it had been killed by being turned inside out, and the skeleton of the chicken was missing.
But no cuts, so it was eradicated out of the back end or something like that?
It was just the carcass of the chicken. I don't know how it actually happened, but they buried it deeply on the ground because they had dogs, and they didn't want the dogs to be ripping it apart and all that sort of thing. So I never actually got to see it at the time.
No, that's quite amazing. Were there other animals on the property that misbehaved?
No, not at all. The dogs were fairly quiet from memory, but this is going back to 1996, so the details are a bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
We would have liked to have taken some soil samples, but it was not easy to get soil samples at a reasonable price, get them tested those days, so that didn't happen.
Yeah, 1996 was a very interesting year. During the 90s there was a worldwide wave and flaps of UFOs up and down the east coast of Australia, and that's when I got nearly all my video footage of UFOs during that period of time. So it was interesting. There was disc activity around as well, so it was interesting that this was a ground trace in the actual suburbs of Brisbane. Yes,
it's Strathpine, North Brisbane. Yeah, it's something that you don't hear about every day. I've looked at Google Earth, and I believe that the area is probably built in now, so it's all residential area, so I can't go back and have a look at it now.
But it's an interesting case, and very rare, and it's just something that we thought we might bring to you as a point of interest.
Now that's a strange encounter from down under.
Cheryl, we're going to talk about a ground trace evidence. Cheryl, we're going to talk about ground trace evidence. What the is that a tongue twister? You deliberately did that, didn't you?
Yes. Ground trace case.
You say it. That's really hard to say. These drowned...
Now Now that's a strange encounter from down under.
What was? That it?